From Phoenix, Arizona, it is the Neglected News Report. I'm your co-host, Scott Mitchell, along with my brother, Kevin.
Good evening, lovers of freedom.
And yes, we blew your cover once again. We have a lot to cover tonight, guys, because it's, you got IRS Gate, you got wiretapping Gate, you get Benghazi Gate. It can be all put under one umbrella, and we'll call it Scandal Gate.
And let's start by giving our prayers and our hopes to the victims in Oklahoma right now who just got hit by a mile-wide tornado. We have no idea how many are missing, but they said right now there's 24 school children believed dead.
And I've got some friends that are there. One of them posted on Facebook less than an hour ago, so that tells me she's okay. But another friend of mine has not heard from her son or daughter-in-law. So she's
and I've seen the initial still photos of the scene. It doesn't look good. Doesn't look like anyone could survive it, but we'll see.
You never know. We've survived Obama for over 4 years. People can survive anything sometimes. Anyway, we got a lot to cover tonight, guys. I'm gonna start off first with the with this whole thing with the wiretapping and or the phone records with the Department of Justice going after the AP and all that. And this is from the Washington Post. This is from today, actually. AP CEO calls government seizure of phone records unconstitutional, says chill already felt. President and Chief Executive of the Associated Press on Sunday called the government's secret seizure of 2 months of reporters' phone records unconstitutional and said the news cooperative had not ruled out legal action against the Justice Department. Gary Pruitt, in his first television interview since it was revealed the Justice Department subpoenaed phone records of AP reporters and editors, said the move already has had a chilling effect on journalism. Pruitt said the seizure has made sources less willing to talk to AP journalists and in the long term could limit Americans' information from all news outlets. Pruitt told CBS's Face the Nation that the government has no business monitoring the AP's news-gathering activities, and if they restrict that apparatus, the people of the United States will only know what the government wants them to know, and that's not what the framers of the Constitution had in mind when they wrote the First Amendment, he said. Pause. This is exactly what happens with totalitarian governments. This is what happened in fascist Italy, Nazi Germany, communist Russia. It's exactly.
And the very same people whose records are confiscating, which the Associated Press, they miraculously come down with a case of Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome meaning you become, you start sympathizing with your abductors, your kidnappers, their whole agenda, even though they're victimizing you, and you're going to see the AP, even though the AP was who Obama was going after. You're going to see him rally around him sooner or later.
Circling the wagons. Okay. In a separate interview with the AP, Pruitt said the news cooperative had not decided its next move, but had not ruled out legal action against the government. He said the Justice Department's investigation is out of control, and President Barack Obama should rein it in. It's too early to know if we'll take legal action, but I can tell you we are positively displeased, and we do feel that our constitutional rights have been violated, Pruitt said. They've been secretive, they've been overbroad, and abusive, so much so that taken together they are unconstitutional because they violate our First Amendment rights, he added. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky said the government needs to stop leaks by whatever means necessary.
He's a paper tiger.
Yeah. Don't get him near a flame. This is an investigation that needs to happen because national security leaks, of course, can get our agents killed overseas.
Did you notice the wording there? This is an investigation that needs to happen. That's very passive. He should be saying, this is an investigation we should be spearheading and leading.
Or something like, hearings begin next week. Something more decisive.
Yeah, like Reagan said, bombing shall commence in 5 minutes.
That's right. Republican Senator John Cornyn, a member of the Judiciary Committee, said the government should focus on those who leak sensitive national security matters and not on journalists who report on them. The Texas Republican said his committee should hold hearings on how the Justice Department obtained phone records from AP reporters and editors. What confuses me is the focus on the press, who have a constitutional right here, and we depend on the press to get to the bottom of so many issues that we as individuals cannot, Cornyn said.
Don't hold your breath.
I don't know. Cornyn said the Justice Department's actions were part of a pattern for Obama's administration to quiet its critics. It's a culture of cover-ups and intimidation that is giving the administration so much trouble, Cornyn said. He also renewed his call for Attorney General Eric Holder to resign, citing the contempt citation the House of Representatives voted against him last year for refusing to turn over documents in a failed government gun smuggling sting.
Well, we've already forgotten about that, haven't we? Fast and Furious.
Exactly.
Yeah, where's that going? So they say we've got 4 scandals brewing. No, we don't. We got 5. We forgot all about Fast and Furious.
Mm-hmm.
This government loves running guns.
White House senior advisor Dan Pfeiffer said the president has complete faith in Attorney General Holder. He also insisted the White House was not involved in the decision to seek AP phone records. Okay, I'm going to stop right here real quick. I don't think they had anything to do with it either. But the fact remains, he is the chief executive. Department of Justice is under him. He's got a leader of the Department of Justice that ain't doing squat. The buck has got to stop somewhere.
Well, if we had a media that could halfway do their job, with a lot of this stuff wouldn't fly under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't.
The cardinal rule is we don't get involved in independent investigations, and this is one of those, Pfeiffer said. How convenient. You know? Although the Justice Department has not explained why it sought phone records from the AP, Pruitt pointed to a May 7, 2012 story that disclosed details of a successful CIA operation in Yemen to stop an airliner bomb plot around the one-year anniversary of the May 2, 2011 killing of Osama bin Laden. The AP delayed publication of that story at the request of government officials who said it would jeopardize national security. We respected that. We acted responsibly. We held the story, Pruitt said. Pruitt said that only after officials from 2 government entities said the threat had passed did the AP publish the story. He said the administration still asked that the story be held until an official announcement the next day, a request the AP rejected. The news service viewed the story as important because White House and Department of Homeland Security officials were saying publicly there was no credible evidence of a terrorist threat to the U.S. around the one-year anniversary of bin Laden's death. So that was misleading to the American public. We felt the American public needed to know this story, Pruitt said. The AP has seen an effect on its news gathering since the disclosure of the Justice Department subpoena, he said. Officials that would normally talk to us and people we talk to in the normal course of news gathering are already saying to us that they're a little reluctant to do so, Pruitt said. They fear that they will be monitored by the government. The Justice Department secretly obtained 2 months of personal and work telephone records for several reporters and editors, as well as general AP office numbers in New York, Washington, Hartford, Connecticut, and for the main number for the AP in the House of Representatives press gallery. It was sweeping and broad and beyond what they need to do, Pruitt said. He objected to the Justice Department acting on its own, being the judge, jury, and executioner in secret, saying the AP would not back down. We're not going to be intimidated by the abusive tactics of the Justice Department, he said. McConnell and Pfeiffer were interviewed on NBC's Meet the Press. Cornyn appeared on Face the Nation. Any comments?
No, I don't even know where to begin. I haven't really been spending a whole lot of time thinking about the wiretaps because I've got overload here. There's so much to occupy your time with. I've been really focusing more on the IRS and the Benghazi hearings, and now they say that there's going to be something about the EPA coming out, about how the EPA is targeting conservative groups.
Surprise, surprise.
So, now, and it makes me wonder, okay, is this by coincidence all this stuff is coming out at once? I don't know. I'm very suspicious of things. In the world we live in, nothing is ever as it seems.
It's like I said last week. I'm not necessarily saying, well, yeah, maybe they plan all these all at once to take your attention away from things that really matter, such as last week I brought up the thing about in the immigration bill that they're working on in Congress, the fact that they're putting together a biometric database of all adults in this country. The other thing is the tax forms you're going to have to fill out that they're putting together that you're going to have to fill out for Obamacare in 2014. I mean, stuff like that, stuff that hits us all.
I think what you're going to see when Obamacare really kicks in, you're going to see a lot of outlaws out there. You're going to see a lot of people opting out of life, I guess, for lack of a better term. You're going to start seeing people just say, "Hey, you know what? I'm not playing this game. I'm not doing this." That's what I'm not saying that's what I'm going to do, but I can see a lot of people will do that.
Okay, here's another a related story. This is about a reporter that's not even with the AP. By badge, phone, and email, here's how Obama's Department of Justice snooped on top Fox News reporter. A story posted by the Washington Post on Sunday evening will stir new debate and review over the tactics used by the Obama administration to monitor how journalists interact with government sources. The reporter in focus, James Rosen, a top Washington correspondent for Fox News.
There's 3 of them now. You know that, right? In Fox that they've targeted.
Was it Megyn Kendall one of them?
No. It's I have it in one of my bag.
I saw something about her, but she was
stack of stuff.
Stack of pilo prep.
Yeah. Megyn Kelly was livid today.
That's what I heard.
You got Rosen. La Jeunesse was one of them that they targeted as well.
Oh,
John. Is it John? Mark
sure.
La Jeunesse. It's La Jeunesse. La Jeunesse and one more. His name was Levine. Mike Levine. He's a producer, but there's 3 of them right now in Fox that have been targeted.
Richard La Jeunesse is what it is. Yeah.
So 2 reporters and 1 producer.
The case begins back in 2009 when the Justice Department began investigating possible leaks of classified information about North Korea in 2009. Investigators did more than obtain telephone records of a working journalist suspected of receiving the secret material. They used security badge access records to track the reporter's comings and goings from the State Department, according to a newly obtained court affidavit. They traced the timing of his calls with a State Department security advisor suspected of sharing the classified report. They obtained a search warrant for the reporter's personal emails. The case of Stephen Jim Woo Kim, the government advisor.
Nice Irish man.
Exactly. He looks it too. And James Rosen, the chief Washington correspondent for Fox News, bear striking similarities to a sweeping leaks investigation disclosed last week in which federal investigators obtained records of over 2 months of more than 20 telephone lines assigned to the Associated Press. At a time when President Obama's administration is under renewed scrutiny for an unprecedented number of leak investigations, the Kim's case provides a rare glimpse into the inner workings of one such probe. And you can read the rest of it on The Blaze. So, as I said, go back and read your history, folks. Whenever the press, the media, whatever, is co-opted by the government, and or whenever the honest journalists out there are investigated and or for whatever reason, you have totalitarianism. That's what we are getting right now.
Yeah, and you're seeing Obama totally insulated from any of this. And I'm going to be getting into this here shortly in one of the a couple of the articles I'm going to be speaking about. He's the guy in the background pulling the strings, but nobody is giving him credit or blaming him, whatever word you want to use. He's a guy. The buck stops here. Remember him saying that? Well, he didn't say that. He actually he kind of mangled Truman's words. He said the buck starts here or something. He
whatever.
He didn't even word it.
You can never quote anything accurately.
57 states in America.
Yeah, and I visited all of them. Which brings us to Benghazi.
Benghazi, yeah. We're triangulating tonight. We're doing 3 stories. By this time next week, there's probably going to be 4 stories because I think this EPA thing.
If we're lucky, there's only going to be 4.
I'm going to go into Benghazi, and all this stuff really ties into one another. They just bleed into each other because because of the cover-up, because of the lack of the I'm not going to say regime, that's overused, but the administration just lying and obfuscating, passing blame. What did Carney say today? He says there are no scandals. He said this is all Republican. I forget the exact words.
Basically,
I don't have it in front of me.
They just politicize. They politicize. Here's something interesting.
Because they're appealing to their low info voters. They're people that don't even follow anything.
They politicize things by accusing the other side of politicizing.
Projection.
Mm-hmm.
They project onto those their own feelings. Anyway, this is just a really short article here. It's by Bob Woodward. If any you young upstarts want to know who Bob Woodward was, who Bob Woodward is. He wrote All the President's Men. He's the one who uncovered Watergate,
along with Carl Bernstein.
And trust me, Watergate was a low-level burglary, and
the cover-up is what did it.
Yeah, it's
Nixon.
Not even close to half of the stuff that's being leveled against this administration. But anyway. Bob Woodward of the Washington Post took to task some in the Obama administration today, saying they're not telling the truth about the Benghazi attacks. He was on Meet the Press, and he stated this. On the whole Benghazi thing, you look at those talking points, and the initial draft by the CIA very explicitly said, we know that activists who have ties to Al-Qaeda were involved in the attack. And then you see what comes out a couple days later, and there is no reference to this. This is a business where you have to tell the truth, and that did not happen here. Well, he could have made it a lot worse than that. He didn't even reference the fact that they said it was due to a stupid YouTube video. He didn't even he was condemning the White House, but not really making it as bad as he really could. That for 2 weeks they sat there and blamed a YouTube video. And by the way, he's the only guy still in jail right now. The guy who made the YouTube video.
And the thing with Woodward though is I think they got something on him. Because what was it a few months ago that he was coming out against? He was really criticizing the administration. All of a sudden he started backing off a day or two later.
Well,
they got some dirt on him or something.
They got dirt. No one lives a pure life. They got dirt on everybody. I've got dirt. I've got skeletons. Everybody does.
They're willing to use it.
But
they got dirt. But you know what?
Somebody's going to have to one day say, you know what? There's something more in this world than my livelihood. Something more than a buck. Something more than this worldly things. You got that, and that's where we start getting into religion.
Well, that's the thing. The founding fathers were willing to give up their life, their liberty, and their fortunes, and sacred honor.
Yeah. So he finishes at the legendary Watergate reporter was responding to a question from host David Gregory. Oh, he's always real objective.
Albino boy.
On the scandals hitting the Obama camp in general and how he thinks they're handling them. Woodward, while acknowledging that the scandals are not Watergate, said that some people in the administration have acted as if they want to be Nixonian, and that's a very big problem, I think. Is that a little loud, Scott?
Yeah, well, you can turn the volume down on the headset.
So he said, while acknowledging that the scandals are not Watergate. See, this guy's sort of intoxicated by his own success. Nothing.
Sorry.
Nothing in Woodward's mind will ever live up to Watergate. Personally, Watergate was overblown. Personally, I think these things are far bigger than Watergate. I mean, I hate to use the mantra, nobody died in Watergate like they did in Benghazi, but they didn't. Not only that, but one of the people that died was an ambassador, and records state that not only was he drugged through the streets, but he might well have been sodomized as well.
I was thinking about that subject, about no one dying just a few week or so ago. Think about it, though. Think about with Nixon's men, what happened with all of them. They all pretty much cashed in on it.
Well, they turned on Nixon, as they should have, and they didn't go to who went to jail? The radio host, what's his name?
G. Gordon Liddy.
G. Gordon Liddy went to prison.
Yeah, going to prison's no big deal for him, though.
Did Dean go to prison?
I don't know, but Dean's making a bucks now on it all.
Yeah.
With books and public appearances. Haldeman and Ehrlichman, they ended up making money off it. John Mitchell didn't live long after that.
And folks, this was just a second-rate burglary.
Yeah.
And Nixon was up by 30 points over McGovern in 1972. It was there was no reason for it. But they did it, and Nixon found out about it. He didn't order it, by the way. I'm not a big fan of Nixon's, by the way.
He tried to cover it up.
He took us off the gold standard, and I don't like that. But anyway, he just tried to cover it up. And he was not a likable character. He was kind of awkward and geeky and gaudy, and he had a weird looking
Kind of
nose.
like Dennis Kucinich.
Yeah, he was a geek. So he was, he wasn't likable. So he went down. So they talk about Watergate like it was just, I'll guarantee you, 2 out of these 4 scandals are gonna, well, hopefully they'll be publicized as they should be, but on looking from the outside in, they're far worse than Watergate.
I think right now, at least with the 3 scandals we got going on right now, the only one that I think Obama was directly involved in it was Benghazi.
Well, okay. I guess we don't know. I mean,
based on what we know now.
Then he's totally inept.
Based on what we know, which is the other point.
Based on what we know.
Which is the other point. If he's not knowing about what his underlings are doing, he's inept.
But why would they be doing that? Is he just this passive father who allows the kids to run around and do what they want, or is he really the strict father who sits in the shadows and really orchestrates things?
Or he knew that these people had propensities or proclivities for doing these kind of things, and that's why he hired them and put them in the positions they're in.
Is he the Manchurian Candidate?
Possibility.
I don't know. We don't know. He's an enigma, right? Do we know who he is? I'm not even going into his past. I'm not going into the birth certificate, anything like that. He takes responsibility for nothing. And
he wants all the glory.
And I think eventually, who's gonna spill the beans on him? Hillary. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
And a lot of that has to also do with Bill. Don't treat the big dog like he treats him without getting bit. And I don't care, but Clinton's still the big dog.
Okay, we're going on to this next article. It's called, this is from The Blaze, White House, a relevant fact where Obama was during Benghazi. We're trying to state that it doesn't matter if he was where he was. If he was asleep, he was asleep at the switch. He was, he was partying. He was playing golf. He was having an affair. It doesn't matter to them.
It's in the hole. It's in the hole.
Senior White House advisor Dan Pfeiffer said Sunday it's an irrelevant fact where exactly President Barack Obama was while the Benghazi attack was unfolding. That attack, which eventually killed 4 people, and those 4 people were desperately asking for help, but were told to stand down. Our military was told to stand down. Pfeiffer told Fox News Sunday that Obama was kept up to date on this as it was happening last September from the moment it started until the very end. That's a very cold statement. He said Obama was kept up to date on this. What was he doing? Was he sitting out in the spa having martinis? What was he doing while this was happening in Benghazi? I mean, one can only imagine. I got a real visual when I read that. But host,
so do I.
But yeah,
I don't want to think about it.
But host Chris Wallace, who had asked what specifically Obama did during the night of the deadly assault, said Pfeiffer didn't answer his question. Pfeiffer said Obama, quote, was in constant touch that night with his national security team and repeated he was kept up to date with the events that were happening. But that's I'm going to go back to Leon Panetta's testimony to Congress. What was that, in April, I believe? April, or I forget what month it was. Well, he said that Obama was not. He met with him very, very early on in the Benghazi, the Benghazi attack for about a half an hour. It was like 5 p.m. Washington time, and after that, he never heard from him again. Now, Whether that's true or not, I'm going to talk about after I'm done reading this article. Wallace asked whether Obama was in the White House Situation Room. I don't remember what room the president was in on that night. Come on now. Please. If you're in the Situation Room, you know if the president of the United States was there. All right? That's a largely irrelevant fact, Pfeiffer replied. The premise of your question is that somehow there was something that could have been done differently and would have changed the outcome here. The Accountability Review Board has looked at this. People have looked at it. It's a horrible tragedy, what happened, and what we have to do is make sure it never happens again. Is that supposed to placate Dumbos or what?
Isn't he the one that also said the law is irrelevant?
Yeah.
Yesterday?
Is that... How many times have you heard that out of
Washington? I'm watching this guy on TV.
Look at this thing. It's a horrible... you could insert this last statement into anything that's ever happened in Washington. It's a horrible tragedy, quote, what happened and what we have to do is make sure it never happens again. How many times have we heard that?
Yeah, but what I was thinking when he says make sure it never happens again, I was thinking about that, and it's like, how can you make sure something doesn't happen again? You can't.
Well, make sure the president doesn't go to sleep.
It's because he says what people want to hear.
Continuing to press the point, Wallace said no one knows where he was or how he was involved. The suggestion of your question that somehow the president, Pfeiffer began, I just want to know what the answer is, Wallace said. The assertions from Republicans here, okay, see what he's saying? He's saying the assertions of Republicans, that it's just Republicans. No, it's not. It's the American people, at least the people that care, not the low-informed voters out there. The assertions from Republicans here that somehow the president allowed this to happen or didn't take action is offensive, Pfeiffer said. It is absolutely offensive, and there's no evidence to support it. No, what's offensive is that Obama appeared to disappear while people died.
And so what if it's offensive? They use that word a lot.
So Chris Wallace continues, I'm simply asking a question. Where was he? What did he do? How did he respond? Who told him you can't deploy forces, and what was his response to that? Pfeiffer repeated the president was in the White House that day. He was kept up to date by his national security team. He spoke to the Secretary of Defense and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff earlier, and as events unfolded, he was kept up to date. Now, this leads me to what I spoke about a couple weeks, I don't know if it was last week or the week before. When I thought this was really curious when Leon Panetta was testifying before Congress, and he was testifying to the very topic, where was Obama? And I was shocked that Panetta, what he seemed to be doing was throwing Obama under the bus. He said that basically Obama was nowhere to be found, incommunicado, totally disattached, and totally how it came off was disinterested. But then you start thinking about it. Okay, this is he's throwing some cover at him, and that's what this is. This is just cover. I still think Obama's hands-on. Obama knew. Obama gave the order to stand down. Obama knew the ambassador was going to go down. In fact, wanted the ambassador to go down. He was running guns to the Turks, and the Turks in return
Syria.
Were running them to Syria.
Yep.
And again, Obama wants. He is a ruler. What word? He is a president. What word? He likes. Boy, I don't even know what word. He's an absentee president, I guess. He likes to present the fact that he doesn't have anything to do with anything, yet he does.
The question still remains: why was Ambassador Stevens down there with basically no security detail?
And it was not even a sanctioned embassy. It was basically what is becoming evident. It was a place that the government rented.
Mm-hmm. It looks just like any house you'd find in our area.
Looks
here.
like a pretty nice condo in Libya.
Exactly. And I don't think that president was incommunicado. I think it was more like he was in commodicado.
Well,
sitting on the can.
So basically, there's two ideas that you take away from this thing. It's either the president is totally inept, or he's very complicit in bad things. I don't know how you can describe it any other way. Ineptitude or complicity. And Leon Panetta, by testifying that, basically Obama went to sleep or whatever, basically took the lesser of the two evils and basically admitted that he was inept. You agree?
Yeah.
Okay. This next article. Oh, this is really interesting. I only heard this morning, and this is almost like something out of something on I don't know. I don't even watch TV anymore. What's NCIS about anyway? What?
Crime scene investigation, I guess. I don't watch it.
Nah, it's not even NCIS. Well, this one's called Beat Up Poet. One of the men punished over a Benghazi security failures fights back with scathing verse. This is fascinating. Raymond Maxwell is one of the 4 State Department officials who was disciplined due to security lapses leading to the U.S. consulate attack in Benghazi, Libya last year. But after he was placed on paid administrative leave last December 18th, CBS News says that rather than sulk in silence and shame, Maxwell has been publishing poetry about his ordeal, often scathing verse that can't be making officials in Washington, D.C. applaud. Now, he refuses to do any interviews. All he does is have reporters refer to his poetry, which is online. This is interesting. CBS News calls attention to his quote-unquote trapped in a purgatory of their own deceit. Here Maxwell writes in part, this is his poetry. The web of lies they weave gets tighter and tighter in its deceit until it bottoms out at a very low frequency and implodes. Yet all the while, the more they talk, the more they lie, and the deeper down the hole they go. Just wait, and feed them the rope. Okay, I don't know. What do you take from that?
Well, it's like Beck was saying this morning that's from The Blaze, right?
This is from The Blaze.
Yeah, he was talking about this morning. He says it's kind of like quatrains of Nostradamus. Nostradamus wrote in quatrains because if he was to actually publish something and say this was a prophecy, he'd be killed. He'd be executed because it was against the law. The church would have executed him. So he did it in quatrains. It's no, they're just poetry.
So CBS News opines,
very similar.
It's a bold and almost shocking verse from the 20-year Foreign Service worker who was the well-respected Deputy Assistant Secretary for Maghreb Affairs in the Near East Bureau and former Chief of Staff to the Ambassador of Baghdad. Fluent in Portuguese, Maxwell is also an ex-Navy Mustanger, which means he leapt from enlisted ranks to commissioned officer. Maxwell uses lynching imagery in his invitation. CBS notes this. He goes on, now, I don't have to tell you who this visual is about. The Queen's henchmen request the pleasure of your company at a lynching to be held at 23rd and C Streets. That's at State Department. C Streets Northwest State Department building on Tuesday, December 18th, 2012, just past sunset. Dresses formal, masks and hood. The 4 being lynched must never know the identities of their executioners, or whose sin required their sacrifice, a blood sacrifice to divert the hounds, to appease the gods, to cleanse our filth and satisfy our guilty consciences. My. So much said that he really didn't say. I find this fascinating.
The imagery on that one it's almost like he's kind of painting Hillary to be a vampire. Just past sundown, blood imagery.
I just find the whole thing beautiful. He's spilling the beans in a sort of poetic, artistic way. I love it.
Well, hey, if they try to get him on anything, he'll say, "Hey, it's just my poetry." It's kind of like Bill Ayers. Bill Ayers, he's just a guy in the neighborhood.
Yeah, right.
You know.
Do you want me to go on to the Ben Affleck syndrome, or
what's that? Does that have to do with Benghazi, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's a few pages long. But this sort of gets into our attitudes as Americans, how we look at things, how we view these scandals, and how we look, basically pop culture. Thomas J. Basile is a political commentator. Well, I don't. That's just an introduction. Watching the recent Benghazi hearings, it's easy to understand why Americans feel more disconnected from the political process than ever before, and trust in government is at a near historic low. The Benghazi crisis is a watershed moment not just for the Obama presidency, but for the nation as a whole. Every time an American feels like they're being snowed in by the political class and disengages from the process, our nation is weakened and freedom is imperiled. Ben Affleck syndrome spreads. It's a crisis of trust that only engaged citizens can combat, but will they? What anyone watching television on September 11th last year knew almost instinctively that a terrorist attack was taking place on American soil in Libya. Then we watched something more shocking unfold in the form of a cover-up by an administration singularly focused on protecting its worldview. The administration has thus far gone on to blame a YouTube video of the State Department, embassy officials, the CIA, and the military for what was a blatant political maneuver during a re-election campaign. Today, 8 months later, the Obama spin machine is out of control, trying to defend the indefensible. No matter what the White House's line may be, they can't escape the fact that they controlled the response to this incident. What I want to get up to is this all leads to the Ben Affleck syndrome. Earlier this month, Reader's Digest released its list of the 100 most trusted people in America. Ben Affleck was number 45. That's right, Ben Affleck is, according to the poll, the 45th most trusted man in America. Tom Hanks was number 1. President Obama was more than halfway down the list. He should be grateful he made the list at all. Now, for good measure, the Reader's Digest poll's methodology is suspect, considering that there are a bunch of Nobel Prize winners on there. I can't believe a random sample of Americans know enough about to rank them in the top 25, let alone the top 100. Reading the list, it's also clear that there is a strong liberal bias. The methodology isn't the point. It's the fact that even with the decks stacked in his favor, the president didn't make the top 50%, and no other elected official of either party even made the list. This survey was about trust the most among those in the public eye. We simply can't afford to live in an America where the people we trust the most in public life are the ones who have little or no impact on our future. Basically, what they're saying about the Ben Affleck theory is we would rather trust somebody who has absolutely no impact on our lives, who like actors and actresses, and trust is earned and it's revocable. Can someone earn your trust by appearing in good movies? True, you are making a decision to pay for a ticket or download a movie, so you expect that you will receive a return on that in the form of some level of enjoyment. But that's it. Actors read lines as part of it, invented scenes and scenarios designed and written by other people. Sports figures can earn our respect and admiration for overcoming adversity, raw talent and tenacity, but what would suggest to anyone that Peyton Manning is someone you would personally trust? Truth is about faith, and faith is about choice. It's a choice we make over and over every day, in fact, based on our belief that some person or institution will do something that has, at its core, our best interests or those of the people and things we care about. So Ben Affleck syndrome speaks to the idea that in today's America we like and trust people who never have to make decisions affecting our lives. We often like and trust the people who never take a stand or tell us no. They are two-dimensional. They appear on the screen and say things we like. When we are tired of them, we turn them off. So, I found that interesting. I like to get into the sociological implications of a lot of things. The people that we really should put a lot of trust in, and really, well, I think it actually says more about our culture than it does about our politics. But
the important question to ask is, where on the list is Matt Damon?
Oh boy. Well, how about Justin Bieber? He got booed off the stage, I heard yesterday.
God. I wish he'd go away. I just wish he would.
What do you?
I was gonna say something here. It's like I got a short article. It tells you. You know how they always say you repeat something long enough, often enough, people are gonna believe it.
That's Goebbels, a big lie.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of talking points are kind of like that, and the White House and the left do this all the time. It's this is from the Washington. It's from the Blaze, actually. Washington Post conservative columnist Jennifer Rubin has little patience for people who dismiss the Benghazi scandal as a, quote, vast right-wing conspiracy, especially if those same people rely on talking points from Media Matters, the George Soros-funded ultra-liberal advocacy group.
Which is a conspiracy theory, not.
Yep.
If you really want to get into who's spending the money on what you read in the news, start looking into who funds it all.
I'm telling you, watch Beck. He does the research on this, and people make fun of him with his chalkboard and stuff, but he outlines it.
It's irrefutable.
It is. I mean, the guy does, and you know what? Here's how you can, this is one of the reasons why you can believe him. Because guess who his researchers are? People like you and me.
George Soros funded Media Matters. You know who runs Media Matters? A psychopath named, what's his name?
I forget now.
The weirdo, who thinks everybody's out to get him.
Oh, Brooks.
Yeah, David Brooks.
Yeah, David Brooks.
He's
yeah.
a fruitcake.
For instance, during CNN's Reliable Sources Sunday, Rubin and Current TV's, that's Al Gore's former network, and Current TV's David Schuster, who's used to make fun of David Schuster? David Schuster, got into a bit of a heated back and forth after Schuster said that the White House's Benghazi email dump last week shows Republicans and journalists, most especially ABC News' Jonathan Karl, were wrong to have insisted the Obama administration has been hiding something. Rubin explained that Karl's attribution was incorrect, but that his story was for the most part correct. Schuster disagreed. It was wrong, the Current TV journalist said, because the overall Republican point here was that the Obama administration was trying to protect the State Department. The Obama administration was trying to protect the State Department, and that the White House was somehow trying to characterize the talking points or change the talking points in order to minimize political damage. That Republican idea is just flat out wrong. Very nice to have the Media Matters talking points recited out of David's lips, Rubin shot back. What are you talking about, Schuster said. I haven't talked to anyone from Media Matters. Schuster continued, prompting Rubin to turn to Howard Kurtz, the show's host, and say, Howard, if you want to hear me, that's fine. If you don't, you should mute him.
Yes.
And that's how it is. They read talking points. You know?
Well, you've seen some of the montages before on any Sunday talk, talking head show.
And they say the same things.
Yeah, they use the same words.
Different people, different shows, different days, same things.
Do you remember back in the old when George W. Bush was running against John Kerry? Remember gravitas?
I don't know. I was too blinded by Genghis Khan or it's the chasm.
Gravitas was he has gravitas. They were building up John Kerry, basically insinuating that John Kerry has gravitas and George W. doesn't. Even though George W. had better grades. Not that I'm a big fan of W's, but he had better grades in Yale than John Kerry did. But
anyway, let's move on to the IRS. Unless you got something else.
Are you going on to the IRS?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna read this article because it's kind of big. It's kind of large. It's gonna lead into the ones I'm gonna read though. White House aide. This is from, Washington Times. White House aide. Nothing that suggests IRS official at center of scandal did anything wrong. Oh yeah? The Post.
Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain.
Exactly. The Washington Post fact check on Lois Lerner and the IRS is blistering. Lois Lerner was the woman in charge of the division of the IRS that is in charge of approving 501c3 requests, which are nonprofit requests to be tax exempt, basically. Anyway, if there's one thing that the Obama administration's IRS/Tea Party scandal has done, it's unite a large sector of the media in a collective skepticism of many of those involved. On Monday morning, the Washington Post showed just how far that skepticism is creeping when it published a blistering fact check of the IRS and the department head in charge of the Exempt Organizations Division, Lois Lerner. The determination? 4 Pinocchios. In some ways, this is just scratching the surface of Lerner's misstatements and Weasley wording when the revelations about the IRS's activities first came to light on May 10th, the Post concluded. So how did the Post get there? We examined below. Oh, by the way, one thing that has to be brought out. You haven't heard a lot about this. I actually heard this out of all places, Fox and Friends this morning. The chief counsel for the White House knew about this IRS, was it the IRS? Yeah, it was the IRS thing, a month before the president did.
I find that hard to believe.
Well, hang on. Lanny Davis was even on, because he had the same position, chief counsel of the White House chief counsel.
Is this man sleeping all the time or what? Or just playing golf or what? I mean,
he said she might be a fine lawyer, but she doesn't realize she's also, in instances like this, she is the first one that's got to put fires out and let the president know so they can figure out what to do. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't tell him, or kept it from him. Maybe, who knows?
Do you really believe?
I don't know.
That the targeting of conservative political groups, i.e., the Tea Parties and so forth,
faith-based groups,
whatever. Do you believe that Obama had nothing to do with that? You really believe that?
No, I think he did.
You think?
Well, I don't know if we'll ever get enough proof to impeach him.
But I'm not saying impeach. I just want to bring light. I think people should know. You know, let's just say he didn't. It's done under his administration. He's as guilty as it's his administration or his regime, however you want to look at it. Mm-hmm. I personally believe he does.
Yeah, I do too. But I don't know. It just, this whole thing on Fox and Friends when they brought that up, it's like they probably leaked this out there. You know what I mean? To kind of deflect people's attention. I don't know. Anyway, Lerner claimed, number one, Lerner claimed that the targeting of Tea Party groups happened after the passing of the Supreme Court's Citizens United decision and applications for 501c4 status doubled. This is what the Post found out. But this claim of more than doubled appears to be a red herring. The targeting of groups began in early 2010 after the Supreme Court's decision in Citizens United was announced on January 21st. The ruling paved the way for political groups to apply under a tax-exempt status known as 501c4. Most charities apply under 501c3, but under 501c4, nonprofit groups that engage in, quote, social welfare can also perform a limited amount of election activity. And it says, but it turns out that these are federal fiscal year figures, meaning 2010 is actually October 1st, 2009 to September 30th, 2010. So the 2010 year includes more than 3 months before the Supreme Court decision was announced. In other words, while there was an increase in 2010, it was relatively small. The real jump did not come until 2011, long after the targeting of conservative groups had been implemented. Also, it appears Lerner significantly understated the number of applications in 2010 at 1,500 in order to make her claim of more than doubled. Okay, here's the second thing that she claims. Lerner said she only heard about the targeting from the press. The Post finds out. But the IG, Inspector General, timeline shows this claim to be false. According to the IG, Lerner had a briefing on the issue on June 29, 2011, in which she was told about the BOLO, be on the lookout, criteria that included phrases such as Tea Party or Patriots. The report says she raised concerns about the wording and instructed that the criteria be immediately revised. She continued to be heavily involved in the issue in the months preceding the news reports, according to the timeline. And the third point they bring up, Lerner said she never addressed the issue before because she was never asked. Not true, says the Post. In fact, just 2 days before Lerner planted a question on the issue so the IRS could come clean, Representative Joe Crowley, Democrat of New York, gave Lerner a chance to talk about it on Capitol Hill. She provided a bland answer about a questionnaire on the IRS website, failing to take the opportunity to disclose the results of the probe, the Post said. Anyway, you can read the full article on the Washington Post's website.
Does anybody find it
Full
odd?
fact check.
Does anybody find it odd that the government? Well, I don't think they should find it odd, but does anybody find it comical that the government paints this picture of the Tea Party as like these jackboot thugs, when in fact most of them are like 50, 60, 70-year-old people who just want our government run, according to how the Constitution, was framed. They're hardcore lovers of freedom in America, and they're making enemies of them. Isn't that frightening to people?
And you've got, I don't know if you guys have heard of True the Vote. Kevin and I I first found out about him when we went to that thing back in the fall. That's the first time I ever heard of him. True the Vote is basically a nonpartisan, not affiliated with any party, objective group that they tried to make sure that there's honesty in elections, integrity, make sure that there's no fraud, all that kind of stuff. It was started by a woman named Catherine Engelbrecht from Texas. She was on Huckabee yesterday. They're coming down heavy on her because she's outspoken. She's out there. We
God bless her.
Yeah, she's an awesome lady.
Literally.
Exactly. They have investigated her 37 times since she filed for tax exempt. They've checked every little thing. They want her to give them copies of every single email that was sent received.
You think the IRS is looking into Al Sharpton that deeply? The Reverend Al Sharpton, who got his reverendship online. Who knows where he got it from, but
he got it from a mail-in.
Bottled in a box of Captain Crunch or something.
But I mean, the thing is, there is nothing partisan about this group. We went to a Freedom Works event back in October and November in downtown Phoenix. She was there. And of everyone that was there, they had Matt Kibbe was there, Catherine Engelbrecht was there, Glenn Beck, what's the Reverend? I forget his,
he was awesome. What was his name?
I forgot.
I can't remember.
I forgot his name.
What's the black lady's name?
Deneen Borelli was there.
She was awesome.
I mean, these people, there was not a partisan thing at all in this. It was just about freedom, and there was no partisanship. I mean, it was just ridiculous. Oh, Dana Lash was there.
Oh, she was awesome too.
Yeah, I like her. It's gotten so bad.
She went mano a mano against Piers Morgan, which is.
I didn't see. Oh, I gotta look that up.
She bitch slapped him.
and it's gotten so bad with this whole thing. This has only been going on for 2 weeks now, or no, a week and a half. Not even 2 weeks. There's more to come, folks. This is how bad it's gotten. Washington Examiner, a congressman, IRS asked pro-life group about the content of their prayers. During a House Ways and Means Committee hearing today, Representative Aaron Schock, Republican of Illinois, oh boy, that's weird, Republican from Illinois, grilled outgoing IRS Commissioner Stephen Miller about the IRS targeting a pro-life group in Iowa. Their question specifically asked from the IRS to the Coalition for Life of Iowa. Please detail the content of the members of your organization's prayers, Schock declared. Would that be an inappropriate question to a 501c3 applicant, asked Schock? The content of one's prayers? It pains me to say I can't speak to that one either, Miller said. He must have memorized that line. After Schock pressed him further, Miller explained that although he couldn't comment on the specific case, it would surprise him if that question was asked. The report comes from the Thomas More Society, a national public interest law firm for religious liberty.
That takes 1984 to absurd levels.
It's almost like thought crime. They're trying to accuse them of thought crimes.
You were talking to God, because that's what prayer is.
Yeah.
And what exactly were you saying to him? And by virtue of somebody asking that question, you would be pressed to ask, who's pressing you to ask that question? Because I always think on, on other levels, other realms. but you know what I'm talking about, Scott?
Yeah, but who's influencing you to ask that question?
That's what
Not
I'm
who's
saying.
asking it. Yeah, I mean, it's just like we said from the beginning of this, when we first started the show on April 1st, this podcast, this is a spiritual war we're in. That's plain and simple what it is, guys. You know?
Can I read this?
Yeah.
This next,
Go
these next two articles, again, I find fascinating. I find the way culture deals with where we're at right now extremely fascinating. And I'm going to start this next little segment up with this is dated May 19th, which was yesterday. CNN poll: Obama's approval rating unchanged since scandals hit. Now, I don't care about their motivations. I know what their motivations are. They're just basically saying, ha, 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 ha. You know, you're not going to hurt him. You're not going to hurt him. Whatever.
Because we got his back.
Yeah, because we got his back. But that's not the point, because I'm going to get to the point here, which is really, I find fascinating. Hopefully you believe me, believe me, I don't know if you will or not. There's a CNN poll that said, the AP Benghazi, the AP phone flap, the IRS targeting conservatives, none of it apparently has an effect on Obama's approval rating. The poll via CNN and ORC, I'm not sure who that is, the Office of something International, reveals that 53% of Americans approve of Obama's job performance. 45% disapprove. The poll was taken May 17th and 18th with a 3% margin of error. Before the trio of scandals, an earlier April CNN poll had Obama's approval rating at 51. So he's actually improved by 2% since the scandals. The poll has determined that while 71% of Americans said the IRS actions against conservatives are inappropriate, 6 in 10 respondents say they trusted Obama's explanations about it, which leads me to this next article. Now, and I'm going to go to a pundit that I don't, as he's like the. Go ahead.
Well, a lot people on the left, kind of when they hear this name, they go,
yeah.
People on the right, a lot of people on the right say, I don't want to listen to that. I can't stand to listen to the guy.
It's like throwing water on a vampire.
Exactly. And then there's people on the right that just can't listen to him because I don't know why. I've never had a problem.
I was driving around, doing my job back in February, and I was listening to Rush Limbaugh.
That's what we're talking about.
And that's what we're talking about. And he came up with an interesting poll. He said, the majority of Americans don't like the direction the country is going in, but the majority of Americans didn't blame Obama for it. And he said, well, I can't make sense of this. And he finally did. And it's going to take a couple minutes, and this is 11 pages long, but I only did 3 pages because it's going to get to the gist really quick. You're going to understand why this man has how he has governed and distanced himself from his governance. I mean, how weird is that? Anyway. Okay, it's called Everyone Gets the Limbaugh Theorem as the IRS Scandal Unfolds, but they're missing the purpose of Obama's strategic detachment. It starts out with saying, this is an excerpt from one of Rush's shows, so it's going to be a little choppy. He's speaking, so it's not written. It's spoken. It's a transcript. Yeah, it's written, it's spoken, not written. He says, look, I don't mean to make this personal. I really don't. You people in the audience that have been here for years and years understand that. For example, when I say that this past weekend, today, all of last week, the Limbaugh theorem has been in full display. I don't mean to make that about me. Remember what we're about here. We are about persuading people. We are about creating the largest group of informed, educated people participating in our process as possible. And as such, it is I who try various ways to come up with the ways to explain things to people that will convince or persuade them, and also do so in a way that will help them explain to other people, and we create a cascade. The Limbaugh theorem was not just about me giving me credit for something. It was simply sharing with you when the light went off, and just to restate it again. The reason I'm doing this is I had a bunch of emails from friends over the weekend who are in the media and who have never heard of the Limbaugh theorem, alerting me, sending me, "Can you believe how Obama's getting away with all this? Like he had nothing to do with the IRS, and like he had nothing to do with what went wrong at the Department of Justice and the Associated Press." And I politely tell them what I did. I went to the website, Rush 24/7. I got all the relevant transcripts from the archives of this program going back to February, the Limbaugh theorem, and I fired the stuff out. I mean, I buried him with data, and I said, look, I finally figured this out. And I actually listened to this program. It is fascinating. Everyone is coming to it now, but they still haven't closed the loop on what it means. I'm sure you've seen this, where everybody is now, wow. You know, I wish I could get right to the point here, and I want to, because right now what I'm doing is I'm reading his, okay, here we go. It was a takeoff on how Obama is literally not attached to anything in his administration. He's not attached to his agenda. He's not attached to these scandals. He's not attached to anything. But what they're missing is that this has been going on since day one in 2009. And what they're missing is the purpose of it. They all acknowledge, for example, that Obama's on a perpetual campaign. But it stops there. They're all remarking to me, boy, isn't it amazing how this Obama guy, he doesn't know anything about what's going on. He's a smart guy. Yeah. But do you know why all this is happening? But do you know why all this is happening is the point. And the answer is right here. Obama approval holding steady at 55%. Now it's a CNN poll, and we have to treat this in a guarded way. President Barack Obama's job approval rating is holding steady despite a trifecta of scandals. CNN Candy Crowley said on the State of the Union Sunday that 53% of Americans approve of the job Obama is doing, according to a poll. His approval is virtually unchanged from a poll the network did before the 3 scandals that have the administration on the defense. Blah, 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 blah. The approval rating hasn't changed. Now, you poll the American people, they're all opposed to this. They don't attach Obama to it. There's a reason. It's not just something to marvel at and insult voters over. There is a studied, purposeful reason why Obama is never going to be seen as governing, and it is precisely within the minds of low-information voters to make sure he's never seen as responsible for any of this. It's purposeful. It's not just some anomaly that happened that everybody can scratch their heads at or laugh at. The Limbaugh theorem attempts to explain why the administration is doing this and how it is working and how it's succeeding. It's really hard reading through this because this is Rush Limbaugh talking. But basically what he's saying is that Obama has managed to separate himself from his own administration. He's managed to make decisions and act like he's not made those decisions.
Well, it's kind of like when he was in the Senate, the Illinois State Legislature. How many times did he vote present?
True. This is true. But he can only do this as a president with a willing media. So, that's interesting you should say that, Scott, because it makes it sound like, he was just a lazy senator. What do you think? Do you think he's lazy, or do you think he's...
He was laying the groundwork
what do you think
for now. He was laying the groundwork for now.
Oh, okay. Do you think... But...
Well, look...
Do you think he's disattached, or do you think he knows exactly what he's doing?
I think he knows exactly what he's doing. He's stupid. It's just that it's his motivation for what he's doing. I mean, the lens through which he looks at the world is what determines what he's going to do or how he's going to do something.
But don't you think it's bizarre that a majority of people don't like the direction that the country's going in, yet that very same majority don't blame the leader of the country?
It's like you said before we went on the air. It's a cult of personality.
That's exactly right, and that's very dangerous.
It was the same thing with Mussolini. It was the same thing with Hitler. It was the same thing with Stalin.
And we talked about this.
Same thing with John Kennedy.
Many weeks ago, when there were Soviet dissidents in the gulags, they would say, "Well, wait till Uncle Joe finds out, what's happened to us." No, Uncle Joe sent you there.
Well, it's the same thing with John Kennedy. How did John Kennedy get elected? All these women that went goo-goo over him. It was a cult of personality. But thank God John Kennedy has had some substance.
Oh, but have you ever seen the archives of Hitler? All the sobbing women, just like at the Beatle concerts. Just the emotional things. Women, pull your panties up, man. Don't be taken in by this crap.
You're smarter than that.
My golly,
I mean, it's
gee
just,
whiz and all that.
Okay, Beav.
It's really disgusting because millions and millions of people die because of this stuff.
I know, yeah.
I got called. I posted something on Facebook this weekend that showed Obama throwing a baseball like a girl, which he does, by the way.
Mm-hmm. It was comparing him to the way George Bush threw the baseball.
Yes. Well, I'm not even a huge George Bush fan, but George Bush throws like a man. And one of my friends, a liberal from Boston, how stereotypical is that? Of all the things I post on Facebook, my political leanings, she was more mad at that than anything I had posted.
And by the way, she took me off her friends list months ago because I was getting into it with her even more lib sister.
Yeah, I
don't even know.
I get unfriended, and I'm pretty polite about things. I just throw things out there, and I have friends that I'm surprised they haven't been visited by the Secret Service yet. But I don't happen to be one of those. I just throw things out there. If you like it, you don't, and I get unfriended. It's amazing.
I was unfriended by a friend of mine who I've known for quite a while, well, online, who's from Britain, and we've never had a problem before, and she unfriended me because she's ultra-lib and I'm not, and I found out later that she just went through a purge and just got rid of all the people she disagreed with politically and sociologically and everything.
Well, here's something interesting.
So I was in good company.
I think this is my, of course I have nothing to back it up with, but I do have gut instinct. I think people who are on the right and who are specifically religious can separate politics from religion. However, I think a lot of lefties...
Politics is their religion.
Is their religion, because I think many... I'm not saying all, don't get me wrong. I think many of them are atheistic or agnostic. As a matter of fact, I got into a big discussion the other day with a bunch of them as, I get tired of seeing postings like religion is responsible for all the death in the world. No, it's not. Have you ever looked at the 20th century?
You know the old saying, and I said this years ago, I said this 20, 25 years ago for the first time. They say in polite company, don't discuss politics and religion. Well, I came up with the reason why.
What are we going to talk about, the Kardashians, or?
No. Well, exactly. But I came up with a reason why people are like that. It's number one, either they don't really know what they believe in either case, or they don't have the strength of their convictions to actually defend what they believe, or don't know how to defend what they believe.
Well, I think
I
think even sadder than that, Scott, is I really believe there's a bunch of oh boy, how can I put this in
shallow people?
Yeah,
I agree.
It's an inch deep and about 5 miles wide.
I agree.
I mean, I've been in I've been in those conversations before. It's like as I've always said, I've been divorced for the last 5 years, and I find stupid women, I get lonely around them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not only stupid women, but stupid people as a whole, because there's nothing.
But, you got stupid people, and then you got people who are not well informed but want to be. And those are the people that you really, really, really want to hang on to, besides the people who are informed. The ones that want to learn. I know a few people that are getting like that. And they have to.
Because they're sensing something.
Yeah.
Doesn't everybody sense something right now?
I was sitting around today at lunch, and over a few tables over from me were 2 guys and a woman, and a 4th woman joined them. And I know I'm going to get a lot of heat for saying this, but at least one of the guys was very likely gay. Okay, the other one might have been, or he was very effeminate. And I'm listening to what they're discussing about the stories of the day, and all they can talk about was Jodi Arias. Is she going to get the gas chamber, or the lethal injection, or are they going to give her life in prison?
Do you know the funny thing about the whole Jodi Arias thing is I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and that's where it was going on. It wasn't even on my radar until a month or so ago. I had no idea.
Yeah, and the only reason I knew about it, honestly, the only reason I knew about it was because it was on the TV in the break room when I went to go have my lunch. That's it. Other than that, I wouldn't have known. I know people that post every little thing about Jodi Arias on Facebook. It's like, I don't care.
Start paying attention to what your
matters.
Government is doing to you. That's the way we're going to end this.
That's right. Anyway, folks, thanks for listening. If you are listening or if you're downloading the podcast, remember we are here every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And as usual, I'm going to leave you with a little bit of Stained.